Okay, we are holding here in the Gemara in Mesechta Megillah. We're ready for the Megillah. Langen Megillah. Not sure what you can see here on the screen. I'm going to make sure the larger screen you can see better. Yeah. Oh, that's better. Okay. Mesechta, good morning, Moshe. We're here in Mesechta Megillah, Daf Chaf Tes Amud Beis 29b. And we are in the middle, it's a little more technical today. We're discussing the order of what Torah portion you read when you have Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Adar, Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Because when the Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Adar, you have to have 3 different Torah readings. Right? We have a Torah reading of Shabbos, whatever is that week. It's Rosh Chodesh, which is in Parshiyos Pinchas, and you have Shkalim, which in our Gemara we have a disagreement between Rav and Shmuel. Is Shkalim in Parshiyos Pinchas or is Shkalim in Parshiyos Kisisa? Then you have Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Nisan. We also have to read 3 different Parshiyos, which are the Rosh Chodesh Parsha, the Parsha of the week, plus Parshas HaChodesh, which you read on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, as close to Rosh Chodesh Nisan as possible. Shalom Aleichem, Reb Label. We're also going to discuss, at least in connection to this, a third time of the year we could bring out 3 Sefer Torah, which is Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Tevis. Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Tevis is Shabbos Chanukah. So you have to have the weekly Torah reading, the Rosh Chodesh Torah reading, and the Torah reading of Chanukah, which one is in Parshas Nasai, one is in Parshas Pinchas, and one is in Parsha of the week. Usually by Yishlach, sometimes by Yeshev. We're going to discuss which of these 3 parshas you read first, and how many Sefer Torah do you take out? Do you take out 2 Sefer Torah or 3 Sefer Torah? That's going to be the gist of today's Gemara, and we're going to come to the concept of in Eretz Yisrael at a time period. We'll get into that too. They used to read the Torah divided into a 3-year cycle. We have a 1-year cycle. We read the Torah from Simchas Torah to Simchas Torah. They in Eretz Yisrael for a while had a 3-year cycle. Teiman also, like even in more recent times.
I don't know, but the original people who used to do it 3 years in Teiman.
Interesting. I didn't know they do it in Teiman. And part of the reason it was done like that was because of Tircha de Tzivura. People were being in shul for too long, so they made the Torah a shorter kriya. But nowadays, everyone does once a year. But the Rebbe actually quotes this Gemara when it comes to learning 3 chapters of Rambam a day or 1 chapter of Rambam. We'll get to it over there.
Well, they still, even though it took 3 years, they still had 7 aliyahs, correct?
Correct. They still had 7 aliyahs, correct. And then it came to there's 54 parshas in the Torah, and there's only 50 weeks a year. So you have an extra 4 parshas, but the last 3 parshas of Chumash Dvarim are very short. And it's not really, if you would divide that parsha into 3, it wouldn't be enough to make 7 aliyahs out of that parsha. Like, for example, Parshas Vayelech is only 30 psukim. If you divide it into 3, it's 10 psukim a year, 10 psukim, and then divide that into 7 aliyahs is near impossible. So they would, right, but in the Shana Muberes, in a leap year, they would even it out altogether.
No, but sometimes, like, for example, by Sukkot, I think is because they repeat over again the
right, on Sukkot we repeat, on Rosh Chodesh we repeat. Correct. We'll get onto that when we get to that portion of Mirz Hashem. At this point, we're up to the words Hanicha Lemanda Amar Lesei de Parshiyos Huchayzer. As weird as on the page. I'm looking in my Gemara over here. Here it is. Hanich Lamanda Amar L'Seder Parshiyos Huchayzer. Later on, in the next Amud, we are going to examine the words of the Mishnah we learned just previously on a previous Amud. Right, the Mishnah said that you read 4 Parshiyos, right? We Parshas Shkalim, HaChodesh, right? Shkalim, HaChodesh, Shkalim, Zachar, Para, and HaChodesh. You read 4 Parshiyos, and afterwards, Chodesh the consider, and you go back to the regular order of reading. So, which order of reading do you go back to? Are we going back to the regular order of reading for Maftir, like we do, like our custom is nowadays, that we read the regular Torah portion, the regular parsha of the week, and then for Maftir, for the last Aliyah, during these 4 weeks, we have 4 different Parshiyos for Maftir and Haftorah? Or do we say the Parshiyos Chozer, you go back to the regular order, means that you suspend the regular Torah reading of the week, the regular Kriyas Torah of the week, and you only read Parshas Zachar, only read Parshas Para. Right, so which one is suspended? And even over there, we're going to discuss, like, how's it possible? Parshas Zachar is all of, 5 psukim? 6 psukim? How's it possible to have a whole entire 7 aliyahs plus a maftir, or if the maftir is the 7th one out of Parshas Zachar, we'll get to that later. So these 2 opinions, if during the weeks of the 4 parshas, do you suspend the weekly parsha and read these instead, sort of like a Yom Tiv, where you suspend the Shabbos Kriya and you read the Kriya of Yom Tiv, or is it just a Haftorah you suspend and you go back to the and the Haftorah during these 4 weeks is these specific Kriyas. So the Gemara asks, Hani Chalamanda Amar, let's say the Parshiyos Chozer. According to the opinion that during these 4 weeks of these 4 parshas, you suspend the regular Torah reading. Then, on Rosh Chodesh Adar, which comes out to be on Shabbos, according to Rav said that on Rosh Chodesh you read the parsha of Kisisa, the beginning of Kisisa. So then, it makes sense. You have 2 different Torah readings. Because since you're not doing because you want to have a differentiation of Rosh Chodesh Adar from all the other Rosh Chodeshes. So Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Adar and a different Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. And the differentiation would be that all 7 people get an Aliyah will be receiving an Aliyah in the Parshas Hatam, in the Parsha of the Rosh Chodesh. But according to the opinion that during the 4 weeks, and that's what we do nowadays, of these 4 parshas, you do read the weekly parsha, but for Maftir and the Haftorah, you read these 4 parshas of Zachar, Para, Shkalim, Zachar, Para, and Chodesh. Uparshas of the Yoma Karinan. So you're reading the parsha of the week, and only the maftir you're going to read differently. My shani, what is going to be unique about this Rosh Chodesh, other over every other Rosh Chodesh, and every other Shabbos Rosh Chodesh of the year? The maftir is the parsha of Rosh Chodesh. You start off with Yom HaShabbos. If, according to the question on the opinion of Shmuel, which says that on Rosh Chodesh you read the Torah reading of Parshas Pinchas, where it speaks about the reading of Rosh Chodesh. So according to the opinion that the weekly Torah reading is not suspended, and you read the weekly Torah reading, so then how is this Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Adar unique from any other Shabbos Rosh Chodesh? If we have to add on extra parsha called Shkalim, and according to him, Shkalim is in Parshas Parshas Pinchas, Rosh Chodesh, what is unique about Parshas Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Adar? That in which sense do you see that you have Parshas Shkalim as well? In addition, our answer is Shani. We give an answer, and we can make a difference. The Torah reading of Shabbos Rosh Chodesh Adar which is Parshas Shkalim, is the same Torah reading as every other Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. And you are reading Parshas Pinchas, but we will make another difference in the order of Aliyahs. The ilu Rosh Chadashim karushita b'nyani diyema. Because he holds that if Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbos, 6 people, the first 6 aliyahs read the parsha, so she reads until the end. And one aliyah, the last aliyah, will read on Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. But now, if it's Rosh Chodesh other, we'll change around a little bit. We need to have 3 people reading the parsha of the week. So meaning, let's say, so right now it's Parshiyos Kisisa, let's say it's Parshiyos Tetzaveh. So you have the Rishon gets Rishon, Sheni gets Sheni, Shlishi reads from Shlishi till the end. Might be a very long aliyah. Could be the longest aliyah that's out there. Shlishi will read from Shlishi till the end, and then the last 4 aliyahs, Barba Karu with the Rosh Chodesh, and then the last 4 aliyahs will be the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh, just like on Rosh Chodesh nowadays, and as we learned in length previously, not long ago, going in the order how we divided the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh into 4 aliyahs. So the last 4 aliyahs of the weekly parsha will be the Shabbos reading of Rosh Chodesh. So that's how we will differentiate Shabbos or Chodesh other. We have to read Shkalim, and according to Rav, Parsha Shkalim is the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh. It's Karbani Lachmi. So we are going to make a differentiation how we divide the aliyahs. That you're going to read the weekly parsha in 3 aliyahs. If a Shabbos or Chodesh, you read the weekly parsha in 6 aliyahs. And the last one is the Haftorah of Rosh Chodesh. And you read it in 1 aliyah. But if Shabbos or Chodesh other, we have to read Shkalim. So now we'll devote most of the Torah reading to the Torah reading of Parshas Pinchas. Every Rosh Chodesh, why do we have 4 aliyahs on Rosh Chodesh? Remember this? We learned this not long ago. Why not just 3 like a regular day, a regular Torah reading? 3 for regular Torah reading was Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. The 4th one was to differentiate. You have more karbanos and karban musaf on Rosh Chodesh. Correct? Mm-hmm. So therefore, we want to show that it's also Rosh Chodesh, and also that it's Shabbos Parsha Shkalim. And therefore, you add on as many aliyahs as possible. And there's even an opinion we're going to have soon on the next blot, in a daf from now, that when it comes to Shabbos, Parsha Shkalim, that you don't read the Parsha at all. Now, we generally don't want to repeat a pasuk when we're laning. Remember the reason why? Because you don't want someone to think that you switch Sefer Torah and Sefer Torah is puzzle, or the person didn't know how to read. Correct? You generally don't want to repeat a pasuk. We only do it on Rosh Chodesh because we don't have any other choice in the matter. But over here, the last 4 aliyahs will be Rosh Chodesh, and you will be repeating a pasuk, but you have no other. Once you already sort of open the path on Rosh Chodesh, we repeat a pasuk for aliyah. So then the last 4 aliyahs of the weekly Torah portion will be Rosh Chodesh, according to Rav, according to that opinion, which says that the Torah reading, the Kriya of Rosh Chodesh, is only mafter. So the Gemara will now question, based on a brisa, Meiseve. The Gemara again challenges Rav. Remember, Rav is the one who said that Parsha Shkalim is the Parsha that you read on Rosh Chodesh. Meiseve. Rosh Chodesh Adar, Shechol Liyas B'Shabbos, Korin Parsha Shkalim, Maftirin Yodah HaKoyin. The Mesechta, right? The Mesechta are the brises which never made it into the Gemara, and that we have as brises. So we learned over there, a brisa is essentially the same as a Mishnah, except that Yodah Nasi did not insert it into the Mishnayos. If Rosh Chodesh Adar came out to be on Shabbos, Korin Parsha Shkalim, Maftirin Yodah HaKoyin. We read Parsha Shkalim, and the Haftorah is Haftorah of Yodah HaKoyin, which is the entire story of Yodah. Let me just bring it up over here on the screen. There was a king, a very righteous king called Yehoyash.
Until he became evil after the death
Correct.
of Yehoiada.
Correct. Correct. When it comes to Tanakh, we have our in-house expert. And Yehoyash made a big collection in order to everyone should renovate the house of Hashem. And he made every single person who came to the Beis HaMikdash give money in front of the Mizbeach, and they collected a lot of money in order to renovate, fix up the Beis HaMikdash. And that's the Haftorah, essentially, right? That's a story. But you see, Yodah HaKohen took a chest, he made a hole in the lid, put it next to the Mizbeach on the right side. When he came into the Beis HaMikdash, everyone had to put money into there, and any money which came was put into there. Now, although we learned previously that in the Beis HaMikdash, you're not allowed to carry your purse with you. Remember that? However, for this, in order to renovate the house of Hashem, he allowed it. And he renovated the entire Beis HaMikdash. And that's Haftorah Shabbos Parsha Shkalim, because it's in the theme. What's the theme? Give money. Give money for the Adonim, for the sockets, right? They said that if someone's in the Mishkan, if the beams fall on him, they crush him. You get that? That's Rabbi Ruddle's joke. If the beams fall on him, they crush him.
You crush him. They crush him.
They crush him, exactly. If the hooks fall on him, they claw him.
Oh.
They claw him, the curtains. Right. So the Machzeh shekel which was given to build a Beis HaMikdash, and the Haftorah of Yodah HaKohen is similar to the Parsha. Yodah HaKohen went and he made poll tax. Anyone who walks into the Beis HaMikdash got to give money till they had enough money to renovate the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore, it's minyana d'yoma. Minyana d'yoma means it's from the topic of the Parsha you just read. The opinion of Shmuel says, well, that's halacha that we follow, that Parsha Shkalim is Parsha Kisisa, where every Jew has to give a half a shekel coin, and it says the word Turma 3 times. One of them is for the yearly half shekel coin. According to Rav, which Rav says that what is Parsha Shkalim? The Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh. How is Haftorah similar to the Parsha? The Haftorah is Yodah HaKohen, right? And King Yehoyash, and they went and they collaborated and they got all the money for the Beis HaMikdash to renovate the Beis HaMikdash. That's like the Parshas Kisisa, where it says every Jew has to give a half a shekel coin. How is it similar to Rosh Chodesh, where it talks about the karbanos of Rosh Chodesh and the karbanos of Shabbos? There's no direct connection to the Haftorah. So that as Gemara is going to ask this on the opinion of Rav, which says that you read in the Haftorah of Yodah HaKohen. So Bish Lam Lamande Amar. Kisisa Hainu the Maftirin Yodah HaKohen. That's why you have the Haftorah of Yodah HaKohen, the Damilei, because it's resembling. It's very similar. Tichsiv, as it says, Kesef Nafshes Erko. If you look at verse Hey on here on the screen, Yosh said to the Kohanim, all the money which is collected to the Beis HaMikdash, give it, and all the money of the census, Ish Kesef Nafshes Erko, the money the persons give according to their value. And in Parshas Kisisa, you have a very similar term which says, L'chaper Nafshes Seichem, to give money, L'chaper Nafshes Seichem. And he uses the word erkecha as well. And every single person has to give their value, which is half a shekel. However, that's of course, so it comes out according to Shmuel, the Haftorah is similar to Parsha Shkalim. Parsha Shkalim, we read about giving half a shekel coin. And the Haftorah is talking about giving money to strengthen the Beis HaMikdash, to renovate it. Aluman the Amar is Karbani Lachmi, but according to the opinion of Rav, who says a Parsha Shkolim, what you read is the Torah reading of Rosh Chodesh, mi dami. Is it comparable at all, one to the other? The Torah reading is Karbanos of Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. And the Haftorah is what Yodah Kohen and Yodah did, that they collected money from everyone to renovate the Beis Hamikdash. So how could you? Why do you do this Haftorah? Haftorah is not similar to the Parsha. It's a question on the opinion of Rav. Answers the Gemara, Dami K'der Reb Tavi. It is comparable. If you remember the explanation before of Reb Tavi said that from the words Zois Oilas Chodesh B'Chadshay L'Chadshay Hashana, right? From the word, the triple lashon Chodesh B'Chadshay. This is the sorry about that. It's coming. I guess it's already 3 times said to say Tillim. Let's at least say some Tillim. Where it says this is the new. This is Chodesh B'Chadshay L'Chadshay Hashana. This is a burnt offering of every month throughout the months of the year. Why does it use a lashon over and over of Chodesh? It tells you that on Rosh Chodesh of the months of the year, which the first month of the year is HaChodesh Zalachem. Rosh Chodesh Nisan uses the word HaChodesh. So then it has to be Chadshay. You have to have new money coming in to tell you that Rosh Chodesh Nisan you have to bring karbanis from the new Machzas HaShekel funds that were gathered, and not from the old Machzas HaShekel funds. And that's what Reb Tavi said was a connection between the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh, we read on Rosh Chodesh, to Parsha Shkolim, and that's why, according to Rav, you could read it on Parsha Shkolim. It has a connection to Haftorah as well, because it's hinted to the mitzvah of Machzas HaShekel. Ask the Gemara further. Meisevei. The Gemara will ask on the opinion of Rav once again, which Rav says that we read Parsha Shkolim. What do we read according to Rav? What do we read? According to Rav, you read Rosh Chodesh.
Rosh Chodesh, yeah.
Correct. You read Parshas Pinchas.
Yeah.
Right. So it says the Gemara, I'll bring you a question from another brisa, which states, Chalias b'Parshas Muchala, if Rosh Chodesh Adar came out to be next to the week when you're reading Parshas Shkolim. Now, nowadays, with our calendars, and I think I closed the calendar tab. Yes, with our calendars, you're not going to have it because we work on a fixed calendar, which was designed by Hillel the Elder.
Hillel the Second.
Correct, not the Hillel from times of the Beis Hamikdash. Later on, his great. Correct. But back then, that it was possible. There was a weekly Torah reading from the times of Ezra. You're already reading the Torah in a regular basis. I read it really from times of Moshe Rabbeinu. Ezra added on Monday, Thursday, Rosh Chodesh. We went through all this earlier. Did they stop? Did they restart? But definitely during the times of the second Beis Hamikdash, you're reading the weekly Parsha. And Rosh Chodesh could fluctuate, right? Nowadays we have rules. This Rosh Chodesh will never be on these days of the week, and that Yom Tov will never be on those days of the week, based on how our calendar runs on its 19-year cycle. However, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, there were no rules like that, right? The way you made a new month was you had witnesses, right? Observations. Nowadays, you can have an observation station on the moon. And satellites going around showing where there's a cloud cover and say, you could place witnesses in any spot in the world. And you have computer calculations making all these complicated calculations which went into finding the new moon. However, back then, it depended on many variables, including could the witnesses get there on time? What time of day did they see the moon? Was it Rosh Chodesh? Were they close? Were they far? Were they able to make it to Yerushalayim? Was someone sick? Was a Shabbos and they couldn't travel or they didn't want to travel? And so on and so forth. Or someone was tamei, couldn't make it into Yerushalayim, and many reasons why someone couldn't make it there. And sometimes Rosh Chodesh will come out, or it's cloudy, it'll come out different days of the week, and therefore it was possible that you'll be reading on Shabbos Parshas Shkolim, you'll be reading the Parsha of Kisisa. And that's where Parshas Shkolim is, according to Shmuel. Parshas Shkolim is in the beginning of Kisisa. Kisisa search Bnei Yisrael l'fkudehem. Right, it's the beginning of Parsha Kisisa, as we see here. Now, if Shabbos Parshas Shkolim is on Shabbos Kisisa, what do? You already read Parshas Shkolim. So what do? So that's what this verse is going to discuss. Says the Gemara, Chol yes b'Parshas Smuchala, bein milfaneh bein machareh. If Shabbos Parshas Kisisa is next to the week when you're laning Shabbos Parshas Shkolim, whether it's on Parshas Tetzaveh, whether it's in Parshas Vayakel, the week before or the week after Parshas Kisisa, you read the Parsha of the week, and you read Parshas Shkolim. And it comes out, you're reading Parshas Shkolim 2 weeks in a row during Shachris, during Shabbos day. You're reading Kisisa 2 weeks in a row. Now, Bishlam Lamanda Amar Kisisa. So according to the opinion of Shmuel, which says the Parshas Shkolim is Parshas Kisisa. Hainu Demisrami Bahu Zimna. Therefore, it is possible that Parshas Kisisa could come out the week of, right? Or the week before, or the week after Parshas Shkolim. However, Elaman Amar Shabbos Karbani, but according to the opinion of Rav, which Rav says that for Parshas Shkolim, you read the Kriyas HaTorah of. No, that's according to Shmuel. Of Rav. You read the reading of Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is which Parsha? Parshas Pinchas. Parshas Pinchas is always in the summer, usually around Shivas or B'Tammuz time. Because it's going to be coming up in a few weeks. Another 2 weeks, right? It's going to be Parshas Pinchas. It's usually about Shivas or B'Tammuz. Because Parshas Devarim is always a week before Tisha B'Av. And since Parshas Devarim is always a week before Tisha B'Av, and the week before that is Maseh or Mates Maseh, it comes out the Parshas Pinchas, which is before Maseh or Mates Maseh, will never be Shabbos or Rosh Chodesh. Will always be in the middle of the month, right? Therefore, you're never going to be reading it twice. Pinchas will never come out to be on Shabbos or Rosh Chodesh. However, it's always going to be in the summer. It's always going to be in Tammuz of. So how could this even be possible? How is this a possibility even? This brisa, which says that if you're reading Parshas Shkolim next to the time where the Parsha is read in the Torah, as Kriyas HaTorah, you read it and you repeat it. If it's according to Rav, which the Torah reading of Parshas Shkolim is in Chumash Bamidbar, Parshas Pinchas, you never read the Parshas Shkolim in the summer, right? You read it in other, or the Shabbos before other. So how is it possible for this brisa to go according to the opinion of Rav, which says that you read that the Shabbos that the Kriyas HaTorah of Parshas Shkolim is, according to Rav, it is
Pinchas.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
So Mimis Ram who's Zimra is even possible? Famous question. In Shabbos Mevarchim, we say the whole Tehillim. Correct?
Mhm.
Shabbos before Yud Shvat, we all get an Aliyah.
Mhm.
So if Shabbos before Yud Shvat is Shabbos Zevarchim, do we get an Aliyah first, or do we say the whole Tehillim first?
Oh.
What do you think? Which one should he do first?
I mean, as far as actually whether there's a choice between the Aliyah or Rosh Hashanah.
Which one do you do earlier? I mean, we're going to have the Gemara, Tadir, Sheni Tadir, whatever is more often you do first. So maybe you should do Tehillim first because you do it every month. And this is only once a year, Yud Shvat.
And then if everybody's getting Aliyah, the church and the Sibor, make sure everybody, a person can see Aliyah, then you do Tehillim.
What's the answer? Answer is,
Mhm.
it's not possible. Shabbos Zevarchim is the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh.
Mhm.
And Shabbos, if Yud Shvat, the earliest, the Shabbos before, even if Yud Shvat is on Shabbos, the Shabbos before is Gimel. It's impossible for Shabbos before Yud Shvat to be Shabbos Zevarchim.
Ah.
Good answer?
Yeah.
Right, same thing. How is it possible to have Parshas Pinchas in other? Is it possible?
No.
Yes, says the Gemara. The maskile deraisa bitlashnin.
Ah.
There are those people which read the entire Torah instead of in 1 year, they read it in 3 years.
It was an Eretz Yisrael.
Correct. In Eretz Yisrael, they would read at certain time periods. Instead of reading the Torah and finishing it every year, they'll finish it once every 3 years. And therefore, it's possible that Parshas Pinchas could be near the time of Rosh Chodesh Adar. They would divide the entire Torah into every parsha, they divide into 3 parts, except for Nitzavim, Vayelech Hazinu V'Zayis HaBracha, which you don't have enough psukim in these Parshiyos in order to divide it into 3 parts and still get 7 aliyahs per person. And therefore, when it came in leap year, and remember, there's 54 parshas in the Torah, and there's 50 weeks of the year. So they would put these 4 aliyahs, these 4 parshas, they would divide them in such a way every about 2 or 3 years. There's a leap year, and divide it in such a way that they would be able to finish the Torah every 3 years. And all these extra parshas, they would put it in, they would fit it into the schedule of the leap years. So it was a little bit more of a nuanced type of Torah reading. It wasn't always the same cycle of 3 years every time. Now, when did they stop this cycle? And we're going to have Rabbi Yaakov Emden, for Zilbi's grandfather, somehow. Rabbi Yaakov, is he related to you? Yaibitz. Chacham Tzvi.
His father, the Chacham Tzvi, was my second cousin.
Right, I told you related to Rabbi Yaakov Emden. So Chacham Tzvi was Yaibitz's father. He asked a question. We're going to see in the next plot that Ezra said you should read the klalis, all the curses which are in Parshas B'chukosai. You should read them before Shavuos, in order that you should be over with it before you receive the Torah, and you should read all the curses in Parshas Kisavai before Rosh Hashanah, in order that you say Tichlas Shana Kol Yisrael, the year with all of its curses are finished. But the people who finish the Torah once every 3 years, they don't have this, because you're only going to get to Parshas B'chukosai, Parshas Kisavai only once every 3 years. So how do you reconcile this statement with Ezra? How do you reconcile Ezra's statement that you have to read these parshas before Shavuos and before Rosh Hashanah if you do it every 3 years? So you have one of the Rebbes called the Pri Latzadik. He said that even then they would make sure to finish Parshas Kisavai, and Parshas B'chukosai. The Kollel would always read the curses for Rosh Hashanah and before Shavuos. Sure, it wouldn't be every year, right? But they make sure to finish it beforehand, even though it will come only once in a long time. Some say that they would take a break from the order, meaning take sort of a deviation, just like you interrupt a Torah reading of Shabbos, if it's, right, Yom Tiv, which is Chol Shabbos Chol Hamoed, or Shabbos, which is Yom Tiv. You don't do the Shabbos Torah reading, and instead you do the Yom Tiv Torah reading. And say for these times before Pesach, before Shavuos, before Rosh Hashanah, they would deviate from the regular Torah reading, and they would read Parshas B'chukaisai or Parshas Kisavai. The Rebbe quotes this Haftorah. The Rebbe quotes this Gemara when it comes to learning Rambam. So the best thing is like we do over here, is everybody should learn the Torah, should finish Torah once a year. Now, Rambam, the way you divide the Rambam is that we finish it once a year. The Rambam is Kol Torah Kula, the entire Torah. Therefore, we finish the entire Torah once a year. But the Rebbe says there are some people, it's too difficult for them to learn 3 chapters of Rambam a day. So for them, they learn 1 chapter of Rambam a day. That way you finish it once every 3 years. And we see from here, this Gemara, there were times that the people had different amounts, different speeds, according to how much and how long they would be able to finish the entire Torah. Okay, good question. Where would they make a break for those times? Okay. Let's go into that topic, and we'll do that today, maybe instead of Yadaita. Where would they make a break for the aliyahs? Right? And it's not such a simple question. It's actually quite a nuanced type of question. Because let me just bring up the Gemara previously. You should remember this Gemara from Daf Chaf Aleph. Ezra said, how many aliyahs you have to have? Right? How many aliyahs we have on Shabbos? Shiva, right? 7. Right? We said other times you cannot do less and not cannot do more. In Shabbos, you're allowed to add more. But we have 7 aliyahs. Now, we don't find anywhere where it says where to finish which aliyah. Sometimes, like we did when it comes to Shabbos or Rosh Chodesh, we have, of course, a list of where every parsha starts and ends, right? What the weekly Torah portion is. We have a list of all the Haftorahs where you start and end. But also, Mesechta Rosh Hashanah, it says where all the aliyahs of Parshas Hazinu are, right? It says this first one reads this one, second one reads that one in Mesechta Rosh Hashanah. But for a regular weekly aliyah, we don't have in the Gemara telling us where every aliyah starts and finishes. So there's a big discussion. What is the source of the aliyahs? And is the source of the aliyahs where aliyah starts and finishes? Does it go all the way back to times of Ezra? And in that case, we have no right to make our own changes. Or did it come up later on in times of the Ga'inim? And therefore, we keep those, but it means that before the times of the Ga'inim, when they read the Torah once every 3 years, they're able to make differences. We do have several differences about where certain aliyahs start and finish, according to different minhagim, in several Parshiyos. But generally, most people, Torah Tumima is Makarius, and that's who Chabad follows. Now, there are certain rules that we had earlier of when aliyah could start and finish. Remember, we have to be at least 3 psukim verses into a new paragraph, at least 3 psukim before the end of a new paragraph. We always want to end off with something positive, unless it's impossible otherwise. Right? For example, which Parshas Acharimas, or to make him tar or tamei. The parsha ends with the word latamei, right? To make him tamei. Tazria. And you have no choice but to end off with a negative word. But you try ending off always on something positive. Sometimes you'll add extra psukim, extra word.
Or you repeat actually the end of the sefer.
Right, that's when you're doing nach, right?
Yeah.
You should always try as much as possible to have to finish the middle of a paragraph, either psuchos, still a new paragraph in the Torah. And so we see differences. The Gra, in his chumash, he had in some places differences from other chumashim where he says you should start and where you should stop. Sometimes there's differences on Monday and Thursday where you start and where you stop. And there's even brought down in certain svarim, certain paiskim, that some of the differences we have don't come from a source of meaning mekaris of kedusha, meaning rather it came from somewhere else. Meaning there was a bakari who was learning the Torah, and as a want of some people, many people, and maybe I shouldn't talk because it's a bedavar, but many people have a habit of correcting the bakari, right? And imagine someone speaking to the king, and you keep on interrupting him. Say that you're saying this wrong. You're saying this wrong. Imagine doing that. They're saying the same thing when the Balkari is leading the Torah, and people are interrupting him, and they thought that they should be better this way and that way, but it's not bakavadik to interrupt when you're speaking to a king, and therefore they just stopped reading there, stopped leaning in that spot. Right? They would call a person up for an aliyah, and he would read, and then they would, he would read, and if he has too many people correcting him, then he would just leave, and they would call the next person from Aliyah. It wasn't one Balkari. Every person was called to the Torah, read their own parsha. So if somebody got uncomfortable in the middle, they would leave, and people would say, "Oh, this is where the end of the Aliyah is." So you understand how mistakes crop up. And therefore, it could sometimes be that certain chumashim even have a mistake where an Aliyah starts or where an Aliyah ends. So what is the source of it? So there was a Rav who lived in Tzfas at the same time as the Beis Yosef.
Yeriza.
Well, there are many big Rabbanim. One of them is called the Tikkun Yisachar. He says that the Goinim, which means generation, the rabbis, generations after the conclusion of the Gemara, they're the ones who decided where every Aliyah begins and ends. And the Monday and Thursday Kriyas Torah were not made by the Goinim, but they were made by later generations, but it's been accepted by everybody. And then he said, I've heard other people who say that it was made by Ezra. Ezra is the one who decided where every Aliyah starts and ends. And it says it comes to Kabbalah all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu. So what does the Baal Shem Tov say about this?
Mm-hmm.
Right here?
Yeah.
So Baal Shem Tov says we based on our Gemara we just learned, it's impossible to say that Ezra is the one who decided where every Aliyah begins and ends, because Ezra lived in Eretz Yisrael. And our Gemara said in Eretz Yisrael they would read the Torah once every 3 years. And if Ezra decided that Aliyah begins here and ends here, how could they read the Torah once every 3 years?
Because he actually lives in Babel, who we had too. Although he went down to Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, but Ezra wasn't in Eretz Yisrael. He wasn't there by the Binyan, but he was there at Beis HaMikdash, where he was in Eretz Yisrael. The Rambam writes that there's some people who could, and you said Teman does it as well, that they finish the Torah once every 3 years. Now, if Ezra was the one who said you have to finish the Torah once a year, how could anybody go ahead and do differently? How could it be in Eretz Yisrael that did not accept what Ezra said? So you can say it wasn't Ezra who did it. Although the truth is there's a lot of more research done recently, so I can't say the truth. But because again, who says this research is correct? It says that in the beginning, even in Eretz Yisrael, they would read during the times of Ezra, they would read the Torah, finish it once a year. But because it was taking too long for everyone in Shul in Eretz Yisrael, they would change it that it should be once every 3 years or every 3.5 years. And later on, that chalukah, that sort of got forgotten, and we went back afterwards to once a year in Eretz Yisrael as well. But there was a time period where it started off with finishing the Torah once a year, then went to once every 3 years. Should definitely do is what we do see. So even though halacha, when it comes to reading the Torah, we don't do once every 3 years. But if anybody is not able to learn the Rambam, 3 chapters a day, you can learn 1 chapter a day. Much simpler, much easier. And I hear Mr. Nadich always listening to Rabbi Gordon teaching Rambam. If you can't even do 1 chapter a day, then you could also learn Sefer HaMitzvahs, which you're learning the same exact thing that everyone else learns, and you're learning the mitzvah of it. And there's many excellent resources out there, Chabad.org for Sefer HaMitzvahs. And therefore, we should all definitely strengthen our learning of Rambam, learning the entire Torah and not just Torah Sheb'Ksav, but the entire Torah Sheba'al Peh every single year. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining.